Listen, I know that my last video was a review video. This one sent me watercolors, and I haven't done watercolors in like forever, and I really wanted to try it out again, okay? Stone me. This brand is called Meiliang, and they sent me their 36 watercolor set, and I thought I would give it a go. I don't know if these are like hard press palette watercolors or if they're like tube watercolors, but they came in this big old box, so it's got foam on the inside. Oh, they're tubes. Tube watercolors. Also, I'm sorry guys, I made the sketch off camera because I don't like sketching on camera all that much. So here's the sketch that I did off camera. I'm really happy with it, but I started off by swatching the colors because I wanted to see what they look like, so I just flipped to this page that I don't really care much about. It's just got a doodle of Hank and Dean and also my persona. So I thought, you know, might as well use this negative space to do some swatches. One thing that stood out to me about the watercolor set is that, and this is like bare minimum, but like I was impressed, almost every color was entirely different from the similar colors in their range. Like there was a lot of reds and oranges, as you can see, but I don't really think any of them were like the same shade or hue. Like some of them were similar in hue, but they would have like a different undertone or vice versa. And I know that's like bare minimum requirement shit, but like at the same time, I feel like a lot of art brands, and especially with markers, it's a problem. There's a lot of like very, very close colors in sets, and I've never really liked that because it's like, okay, now I have two markers that are the same color, but with a different colored cap. All right, gotcha. But I didn't have that problem with this. All the colors were very diverse, and my camera went out of focus here. I really want to apologize for that. I don't really pay attention to my camera when I'm recording. But just normal swatches. I thought that color looked a little bit like doo-doo, so that was kind of gross, but it's whatever. It's a good color if you want to... Never mind, I'm not going to be gross. I'm not going to be gross. I'm not going to be gross. As for the quality of the colors, I'm not gonna lie, I can't really say much on the front because a majority of my watercolor experience has been in my teenage to middle school years. It actually used to be like my main medium at one point. All I did was watercolor. I could not imagine doing that nowadays. I have very little patience for things to dry, and I just generally like markers better, but I also still have a very soft place in my heart for watercolors. But as for the colors go, I'm in college, guys. I'm in college. As far as the colors go, I enjoyed them. I think a good variety of shades was included, and this could be user error because, again, I don't watercolor that much anymore. Some of the colors were a little streaky when you put them down, especially up there in the corner, the doo-doo color, 522, that was a little streaky. That could be user error, though, and honestly, I'm not too picky because whenever I was in my watercolor days, I used to use the super dry palettes that you just added water to, that you get from, like, the dollar store or Walmart. And those sucked, but I still made the best of them. I'm a firm believer that you can do great things with cheap art supplies. And if I'm not mistaken, these are also advertised as an affordable watercolor solution. I believe they told me that they're classified as student-level watercolors, but are also good for novices. So if you're just wanting to get into watercolors, I feel like this might be a good option for you. You know, do look around and do some additional research, but honestly, I was pretty happy. You can even see, like, all the variations in colors. Like, even though a lot of these blues are similar in hue, they're different in shades and such. Yeah, I just liked them. And, of course, there are 36 colors, so I feel like that's a good number to start off with. And it includes a white and a black, so you can do as much mixing as your heart desires, which I did happen to do for this video. It was actually kind of hard. It was kind of hard to force myself to make the drawing that I did into a watercolor drawing and not a marker drawing because I so wanted to do it with markers because I'm so comfortable with markers, and doing watercolors again was like a huge and very scary leap for me. I'm not gonna lie. So I'm not gonna lie, I played it a little safe. I went for a more graphic style since I think that's what my art generally tends to lean towards over painterly. I do really enjoy painterly styles, but I was a little scared to go full out painterly. So I wanted to kind of keep it in a territory that I'm used to, since I was already making a pretty big leap by using watercolors instead of markers. So I did the line art first because I knew that these paints are pretty opaque and I wanted to lay them out opaquely instead of thinly, because I just like a nice thick color, you know? So I did the line art first so that way I could maybe go over it later but still be able to see it and still be able to see, you know, where I was at and all. I don't know if that makes any sense. And I don't know if that's cheating, but I don't think watercolor has any rules, and I don't think art has any rules, so if you think that's cheating, suck it up, buttercup. But yeah, so I did some line art first before I dove straight into the paints. I really, really liked this drawing, and again, it was very hard for me to not just, like, do another drawing and make this one a marker drawing, because I had so many ideas for, like, different techniques and stuff I could use with markers for this drawing. But I stuck it through, and even though there was a lot of moments in the process where I was, like, terrified, and I was like, oh my god, this does not look good at all, this is not coming out well, I still stuck it through, and I think that it turned out pretty good. I'm pretty proud of it, and I think it's definitely a trust the process kind of thing, which I'm used to, and that's what I kept thinking in my head, but I was so scared I was going to trust the process, and the process was not going to deliver. But thankfully it did. I'm very happy with how it turned out. I don't know if it's cheesy or not, but I kind of wanted to really heavily revolve this drawing around, like, the concept of death. So I drew this really, really scraggly dog. Really scraggly dog. Looks like it's been through a lot. It's got a spiked collar. You know, looks a little, like, maybe even malnourished. And then I have this, like, super, like, calm wolf creature with, like, some huge chains, because that's super sick. I drew a sword because I like swords. I drew a skull because I like skulls. And I drew a guy who seems to be, like, decimated. Like, he's being decimated or something. I don't know. My friend kind of said it looked like the Ash Baby meme, which I didn't know existed until now, but I think it's really funny because that's just hilarious. Ash Baby, are you kidding me? It does look like him. But yeah, that was my kind of thought process for it, was like maybe like the bigger dog wolf thing is like death embodied, like death for dogs, you know? I don't know, I just kind of wanted to like kind of add some grim themes in there, just because I think it's cool. And the whole time I was drawing it, for some reason, I was reminded of, like, dungeons and stuff. Gave me a very dungeon-y vibe. I don't know if this is, like, weird or whatever, but, like, I'm, like, super into the idea of dungeons. I just think they're super interesting and sick and cool. I also did, like, this, like, sort of really cool fantasy-esque, medieval-esque border. I don't know the actual name for it, but it was very difficult to draw, and there's some points where you can tell I totally winged it, but I think it turned out really good, and the line art's really shaky, but I ended up going in and fixing it and thickening it after I'd painted over it, because I kind of painted over the lines, like, a lot. But it's okay. It's okay. I think it turned out good. I think if I were to give this painting a name, which I think is super embarrassing to me for some reason, I don't know why, but if I were to give this painting a name, I would call it Death Eternal, because that's so cool and edgy and dark and deep and grim, and I'm all of those things, bro. I'm all of those things. I'm not sure if this is anything, but I kind of wanted to give it like a retro almost style of like colors. Like there's this really specific genre of like 80s, I think it's like 80s or 90s, but I think 80s, like dark fantasy kind of artwork where they use these really, really grim, dark purplish blue hues and like really rusty kind of reds. I think the reds that I ended up choosing were more pinkish, but the inspiration was there. I don't know if it shines through or not, but I think that I did a pretty good job, and I definitely got the vibe that I wanted to achieve. One thing that struck me about the watercolors, and this is probably just because of my previous experience with them, but they were like super creamy. Like super creamy, super smooth to work with, like physically smooth to work with. And that is probably 100% because I used to use those dollar store palettes that you just add water onto, because those are super powdery. But it was a completely different experience for me, something new that I hadn't really experienced before in art. Almost similar to gouache, but, you know, waterier, which, yeah, that makes sense, of course. Gouache is like if watercolor and acrylic had a baby. But yeah, it was an interesting feeling that I haven't really had experience with, so it took some getting used to, but it obviously was good. For a lot of the painting, I just really went opaque with the colors. Pretty much the only exception is on the white dog. Of course, I did have to water down the watercolors for some shadow effects there, because I didn't want that to be super opaque, because I still wanted it to read as like a white dog and not like a blue dog or a purple dog, you know? So I think that it kind of ended up making the paper a little cakey, but in hindsight, it hasn't cracked, and I don't think it makes it look bad, so I don't really think it's that bad of a choice. I just think it's a more graphic way to use watercolors. One thing that sucked about making this video is I think because of how thick I laid on the watercolors, it was very shiny, especially on the darker colored wolf creature. So it's kind of hard to see, but it was starting to come together at this point, though this was definitely the point where I was like very scared, because I was like, this process is very hard to trust, but I did it anyway. I stuck through, and I think it worked out. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and apologize for the crazy shine on the paper. I'm kind of having a hard time trying to figure out how to record my videos in a way that's like aesthetically pleasing, or in a way that's like, you know, not terrible to look at, and I feel like I'm getting closer, especially with the light sources. I'm getting closer. I'm not quite there yet, but I had a lot of fun doing the details on the sword and the skull and our little ash baby guy, because I did it all in grayish black, and I kind of like let the watercolors be a little bit more watercolory. I wanted to give it like a really thin, papery, like sketchy, kind of like a light wash kind of feel, if that makes any sense. Basically meaning I just didn't really do a lot of effort into making sure it looked really clean. I kind of wanted it to be messy and kind of like decrepit looking and freaky. So that's what I did. And then I filled in these little boxes with black. I just thought that was a cool look. I was really inspired by one of my favorite artists. Their handle is Plastaboo. But yeah, they make a lot of really cool stuff with a similar vibe, and even though I had a lot of other inspirations for this drawing in particular, I did want to mention them because they're just a good artist, and I think that you guys would like them. But yeah, it's done. I liked it a lot, even though I was really scared about the process at some point. I think it came out really good, and I'm kind of happy that I did it in watercolors, because there was a lot of stuff that I couldn't have done if I had done it with markers. So, happy day. If I can get a good picture of this, which it's insanely hard to because the paper is shiny, I'll probably make this into like a print and put it on my wall, because I enjoy it that much. The watercolor did good, even though I wasn't using like watercolor paper. I was just using a mixed media sketchbook. It didn't pill or overwork the paper or anything, even though I'd say there were some spots where I put on a lot of pigment. So, very impressed with that. But yeah, I didn't record an outro for this video, so I just wanted to leave and say thank you, Meiliang, for sending me these watercolors. If you guys are interested, I think that these would be a great watercolor set for somebody who is wanting to get into them. So yeah, hope you enjoyed, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!